All right, it is now time for raising funds for World Domination, day 133. Orthoplex 64, how's it going? So, no changes on the rent eviction situation, although there's we are getting closer now, so I did spend a little bit of time on a couple emails today related to that. And otherwise, for today's stream, we will continue once again on working toward the next release of the terminal block mining simulation game. So as stated before, I have all the features that I want in the game for this release. So functionally it works, but I'm just still working on hopefully a few performance improvements that I'd like to get out. I like the performance to actually be a bit better in the next version. And as stated previously, currently working on the next long form video. So I guess it's almost 1 month that I've been working on this. So we got to get that out. Scripting is 100% done. Video recording 100% done. The voice recording is now 100% done. The editing, we're going to say that's 35% done. So that is the current status of the next video. And otherwise, tonight we'll continue with some of the optimizations, simplifications to the screen layer merging. And I was thinking about it today. I gotta actually get something shipped, get toward the next release date. So I may actually just drop this. I can do that. Maybe I'll just make that optimization for the future. Yeah, so I may just focus on these kind of three items here, which I guess will mostly relate to just continuing to simplify the existing nightmarishly complicated layer merging function. John and Atlas says hello. How's it going? So we'll clone the latest. It's the right version. So we'll run the latest version, make sure it still works before we start making changes. I think I tried to decrease my volume a little bit in my headphones, so hopefully I talk a little bit louder tonight. So I don't mumble as much. Okay, the game works. It runs. The menu is still horribly slow. I think that should maybe be a clue for where some of the optimizations should be, because there's kind of no excuse for this thing having lag. Which one of these is your favorite command? I actually have a video on my favorite command. If you, I made a shorts video about it. If you check out it's not the latest, but it's one of my latest shorts videos on my shorts page, where I introduced my favorite command. All right, let's run the tests. Make sure I didn't add something that fails. So I think last night this was taking between 126 and 129 seconds to finish. So it's probably not any faster. My approach for refactoring and simplifying stuff like this usually goes around like refactor the code to just simplify it, so that it's like I can even wrap my mind around it. Then once it's simpler, during the process of simplification, I find you often realize you were doing stuff that just wasn't necessary in the first place. Honestly, don't know anything about software engineering. However, I have an MBA and I'm also a broke loser, so I can relate. Just curious if you've ever considered living the van life. Honestly, I haven't considered living the van life. Personally, I kind of like to stay put. I also like to when I was in undergrad, I had to live very sparsely. But I appreciate having things, and if you want to accumulate possessions or accumulate wealth or something like that, you kind of need a place. I think van life, that would be fun. The younger you are, the more fun that would be. But I don't know. It was a kind of a pretty successful, popular YouTube genre for a while. There's a few people that just lived in vans and then made videos about living in their van, and they made more money doing that. But I think it's pretty saturated. Actually, I think that's kind of more common. Getting more common now. People just live in their vehicles. I was out for a walk somewhere one night. Actually, I did some recording. I was thinking about making a video out of it, of testing out audio recording stuff. There's a train crossing near here, and I was standing in this one place for a while, and there was this car there that was just parked in the parking lot, and after standing there for a while, I kind of came to the conclusion that someone was probably living in the car, and it makes sense. I was actually thinking, given the unit economics, if you think about how much, this is something I've never heard someone suggest before. It's a crazy idea, but mathematically it can make sense. Once we have driverless cars, we can have driverless houses. So I would imagine some venture capitalist will probably think hey, just take a regular car, rip out the interior, and make it into a small house, and then the person just lives in their car, and then the car just makes its own mind up and drives around and whatever. So you just live sitting in your car. And you could pay I don't know, $30 a day or something like that. And it'll use sophisticated algorithms to find the best place to stay. I watched all of them. I'm a CS major. You owe me so much. Excellent. Hey, you guys. How's it going? Don't think van life is as kind in Canada as it is in milder climates. Actually, I remember clicking on one of those videos, and the person in the video said they actually prefer cold weather, living in a vehicle in cold weather, as opposed to hot weather. Because in hot weather, you can always have more layers and dress warmer in the winter, but you can't do the opposite when it's hot. But even so, it still would be pretty brutal. I would imagine like even if you had blankets and stuff, you could probably still almost freeze to death if you're in a car during the peak deep freeze in February. My 20s it was fun, but in my 30s I'm good on that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is if you're younger, it's maybe more appealing. Maybe friendly on the US in terms of climate. I actually live in my car. That's true. But the cold weather, heated blankets make a difference. Have to have external power supply. Yeah, times are rough. It's a whole genre of people on YouTube living in their cars. And I've also started to see some channels pop up of like people who had like advanced careers, like they were software engineers and stuff, who got laid off in their 50s, and now they make YouTube videos about doing DoorDash and stuff. I do not choose to be a common man. It's my right to be uncommon. That's true. All right, so I was thinking about an optimization. Well, it's not necessarily an optimization, I guess, just something that'll help me deconvolute this whole thing. So let's try and remove this. Imagine pushing 50 local variables of functions to the stack just to evaluate if a thing is either true or false. I can imagine that, but that's kind of a non sequitur. Backup battery powered by solar. If enough sun in the winter, can get by concocted in heated blankets. I would assume you probably wouldn't, like maybe in different latitudes, but I would assume I actually tested it with like a light meter just to see like the difference. What is the difference in power output that you get on like a kind of wintry day with a solar panel, or like even just like if you can buy a lux meter on eBay for like $20, and it tells you the measure of how much luminous flux there is, and the difference in the amount of like just energy per surface area from the sun in the winter. It's like on the order of like 1,000 times less than it is in the summer on like a random day, because the sun is so it just does not come up high in the sky, and then also it's almost always like kind of cloudy and gray, and if you're not getting like direct sunlight as much. Need Starlink too. Yeah, internet's important. For a CS job, just use my iPhone. Yeah, actually modern phones actually get pretty good internet. It's kind of impressive now. It's like on par with, like the total data amount that you could have is kind of on par with an actual cable internet. Can charge my car. But the car will take 10 hours. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure of the practical numbers on that stuff. I imagine it would be a huge pain to be constantly like starting your car and trying to charge stuff, and always like the balance between having enough gas and having enough battery life and stuff. Because if you're using your phone for internet, doing something heavy on it and running like laptops, you're going to go through a lot of power on that, and that you're going to kill the battery. I guess you could plug it in. I'm a big AWS user. Just started using Oracle Cloud. You can get a free 25 gigs RAM Ubuntu instance for free. Huh, nice. Oracle Cloud. Interesting. This is the first I've ever heard of like a consumer choosing to use Oracle Cloud. I didn't even know Oracle had a cloud that like members of the public could use. I thought it was just mostly for government stuff and like big enterprise. Came across a YouTube vid a few days ago. Oh, about Oracle Cloud. I think a V2L electric car, like the Long 5, could change a charger portable battery generator. Ford F-150, Lightning 2. But I think people who can afford those cars don't have my worries. Yeah, if you have the right adapters and stuff like that, then you can make it work. I think if you have the money to invest in it, then you can get like pretty sizable like power bricks and stuff like that. But you'd have to be you have to be really careful about like the power you get from like a cigarette lighter or something, like especially in an older vehicle. It's probably not like super well regulated and current limited. So you have to be careful not to like overvolt things, and also like you have to be careful not to pull too much from it, because if you try to charge like a giant power bank from it, it might pull too much current and then heat something up. And you gotta check all the specs and stuff. Range on them is horrible. Interesting. I don't want to ask, but I gotta. What's your take on VS Code? I've never used VS Code. Not even once. Actually, I don't even. I'd have to Google what it looks like. I like Vim, but I'm not that skilled in writing a huge program. Yeah, you just got to spend thousands and thousands of hours, and eventually you'll get it. Far from a pro electrician here. Yeah, I think probably especially on newer vehicles, they probably think about much more about current limiting and stuff. For like sensitive devices, like when you start your car up, I would imagine there's tons of like voltage transients and stuff when you're starting it up that might go through. So if you have probably not, it's probably not something you have to worry about that much, but like if you had a really crappy old, like a really old 1980s truck or something, if you started up with a modern phone plugged into the cigarette lighter or something, I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe some potential hazards with doing that. Non-player character says one underrated Unix utility. Oh, you're asking for one underrated Unix utility? I think I do have one. Well, I guess you can look at my core utils tier list command, where I actually, if you want one, I can instead give you 108. Where I do a review of all, and I guess that pretty much goes through the main utilities. One underrated one. I don't know. It really depends on what you're doing with it, I guess. Your favorite? I made a video about that on my shorts page. Would you consider starting a series of least favorite Linux commands? I do have one video that's like I can't remember what it's titled. If you search for like don't learn these commands on my channel, there is one that I kind of review some ones that I think are useless. I guess I could, if you watch my core utils tier list, that would also kind of imply some of the ones that are, the expand command is not very useful, I don't think. commenter. You're spamming the chat. Thank you for your kind words. But try to pace your chats. Or just send them all in one message. So other people's chats will show up. Do you have a video on how you architect a program like this? Not really. Some of it is I have like an intuition about how to architect it, but then some of it is just there's so much stuff to think about, so many constraints that I have to just like write it and then figure out the design flaws and then fix them. Yeah, I do. If you search for the channel for any videos about the terminal block mining game, I have talked a bit about like what's in the game and stuff. I haven't really talked too much about the architecture or like how to, from a design perspective. I'm the NPC around here, Mr. Commenter. I guess you've got competition. This is going to result in very ugly code. That might do what I want. Wait, no, I'm not using the rate variable. Are you going to start doing lives at this time regularly? I definitely tune in. I actually I did I have started 133 days ago. I think I've been pretty consistent. Um, about 10 p.m. I start and do about 2.5 hours of work on this. Ever use Ubuntu when you shut down a cold start? Cold start the graphics. We got when you shut down and the cold start. Oh, like the graphics driver or something messes up. I think Linux consistently has trouble with NVIDIA drivers and stuff. That's a persistent problem for everyone, I think. There's multiple sources of why that is. When a restart fixes it, just the cold start. Yeah, I don't know. That could be any number of things, I guess. Could be like thermal expansion of something, or some kind of bad connection. So that doesn't work. Did my favorite command, update and upgrade. That didn't work. Yeah, I actually had an issue a few days ago with, that was why I didn't stream normally, like a few days ago. I think there's some bad update or something that was pushed. But then it failed to do the update, and then I manually reran it, and it worked okay. Oh, there's one new member on the stream. That's interesting. It doesn't. I wonder how that works. This, I guess, through some mechanism, someone became a member, but there's no notification of it. Yeah, I'm not sure. It might be like some kind of screen synchronization issue. I guess you can try the driver update. It could be even be a hardware, could be a hardware issue. That's what AI is saying. Yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult one to debug, especially if it's inconsistent. Older NVIDIA cards do that? This is going to be really annoying to figure out. You know what? Let's just delete this. That's a bug. Be careful reinstalling graphics drivers, though. You might, unless you're super comfortable debugging that stuff. If you totally break your UI, you may have to. If it's your like only laptop, you may have to drop into a shell, and then it gets hard to like. Now, if your system's really broke, you want to Google for how to fix it, but you can't because you can't open Google because you're in the terminal. All right, that functions, but I think this will fail on the tests. Now, does this problem happen with... Yes, it does. Love Goonies 2. Baby Ruth. I don't know what that means. I don't see how that follows from the previous conversation. Oh, the profile pic? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's interesting how there's so many obscure like subcultures and stuff in people's profile pictures and profile names. And if you're not part of the in crowd, it's hard to figure out what it means. Sloth is a true hero? I don't know what that means either. right, let's figure this out. Never seen The Goonies? I never heard of that. Is that a TV show? A movie? 80s? Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of out of date on classic media, but with all the new media, there's so many movies and stuff that have been created and series that I've never had time to even think about. Do you ever use Control R for recursive search? Yeah, to search through bash history. Yeah, I do that quite often. So I guess my algorithm is expecting that this would be yellow, but it's not. So it's supposed to, I guess, inherit the whatever the first column has, which makes sense. Goonies might not be for grown-ups. It's more of a nostalgic thing. Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting. I never even heard of it. Robert would be Data. Oh, and a character in the show. Robert, how long were you coding for? I'm mind blown how you're doing this right now. How long was I coding for today or in life? I've been streaming since just about 10. That's when I started today. What does that T-1 do? That should grab the colors from the previous column. So the whole thing, oh look at that, it's all messed up. So yeah, it's totally broken. So in this terminal-based video game, so the terminal is composed of columns. So standard old ASCII characters are only one column, and emoji characters, which are a central part of this game, are multiple columns. And I also have support the game for like, it can work with arbitrarily wide columns, because you can also set like wide column mode and stuff. So the screen layer processing needs to work with characters that are an arbitrary width. And for the case of multi-column characters, when I want to draw like background colors behind them, it's necessary. I have to think about rules for like when you draw a character, can it have inconsistent characters behind it and stuff? And the convention I've gone with is just when you print one character, you should only be able to have in that cell one color behind it for the entire multi-column character, because there's a whole bunch of other logic that relies on that. So I'm just trying to massage the code in order to pass the tests. So we'll see if that change I did makes the test case pass. Nope, it does the opposite. Makes it even more broken. Yeah, so I guess let me just do git stash. So here's the game. So to be able to actually build the user interface, I have a system of like screen layers, and I have logic to merge together screen layers. So the player icon moves around in its own layer, and then it gets merged down onto like the lower layer. So see, like there's no screen painting here. It's all characters that are printed in the terminal. So behind this character here, there's like it's gray behind there to basically inherit the background. And now if I move over this, it immediately changes to red. And so what to do to facilitate that, it's actually printing out a emoji, printing out another emoji character that has a red background instead of gray. And then when I move over here, it has to inherit this background. So there's a bunch of logic in the game to inherit stuff like that, or to handle those cases. And then I also I implemented some logic for example, the case of there's a whole bunch of edge cases with like partially covered multi-column characters. So for example, I guess that is that. Oh yeah, that's getting partially covered. So that the screen layer merging has to figure out how to cover that partially covered character. Like, what is the algorithm? And the algorithm is, if a character gets severed, it has to remove the character and then inherit the background color of that thing. And like when you see that, you don't really, it just kind of looks natural, but that required a lot of logic, because if I, like any other, the crappier implementation I had before, you would get like bugged. Like you get like a black character here, and it just looked really bizarre. There was a ton of other edge cases for that, so that's why this that's what this whole screen layer merging nonsense is for. And the I git stash pop. Oh. Yeah, so for this, eventually I plan to like this whole thing is just such a convoluted piece of mess, but I'm trying to untangle. I have all these like state variables and stuff I'm trying to get rid of. So I have this like first column has change variable. My goal is eventually to like eliminate these and then make it so it's not carrying state forward through every loop. It's just like looking at something previous. Oh, I don't. That's why that didn't do what I want. Looks so clean. Thanks for explaining the logic. Yeah, it's it was a lot of work. Actually, this started off as like a feature. I was like, oh, I could probably crank this out in a couple of days, and now it's been. Honestly, it's been an embarrassingly long amount of time that I've spent on this. Game Dev Chad says, hey, how's it going? Right, that's closer to what it was before, but it's still not correct. Wait, I did want that to be -1. Actually, this should be in here because this will only actually maybe could I do what about that? That's what I like about VS Code. Multiple cursors to change everything at once. Multiple cursors to change everything at once. I'm not really sure what that would mean. All right, that case is still broken. That's wrong. I want this to be greater than 1. So when you add the -1, does it to all the I variables in that variable? When I do that, it is it's referencing the previous. It should reference what's in the previous column. That's what I wanted to do. What it's not currently doing. So if I this is cryptic, and is only relevant for me. Anyway, so this is my test case thing I'm using to debug and figure stuff out. So for this test case, it randomly generates like thousands of permutations of tests. And so this is the algorithm for, so here's a fictitious screen layer, a representation of it. Here's what it's merging onto. And so that I can read it, I make the layers as small as possible. So this here is representing, to me, because I wrote this represents just an empty region. So that's a null. And this is any 2-column character. So a 2 underscore represents the 2-column character. That's being merged down onto, can't really see what that, is that a G or something? It's hard to see. So it's merging down onto a G with the color. So what the algorithm is supposed to do is it's supposed to merge this down onto this. So this is the output. So it's whatever the 2-column character was, and it's supposed to pick up the colors from this character and propagate them into both columns. So the first thing it was doing was it was picking up that yellow, but it's putting the yellow in that column. And just to simplify the realm of what's possible, and simplify error checking and stuff, I made it so that it's an invalid state in my program to have a multi-column character with inconsistent background colors. Because when I set the colors, I can't set them for half of a color. I have to set them for the whole color, so it wouldn't make sense to see an appearance of that. And what it's supposed to be doing, just for the tests, like it's kind of it's not an impactful case to get working, but to keep all the like error checks and stuff working, I want this case to work, because otherwise the validation, the validate function I have is always going to see that and be like, that's not supposed to be that way. And there's other algorithms and stuff that'll make incorrect guesses. So the -1 is saying when I'm evaluating this column, use the colors from I-1. So whatever came before it. Can't really give you advice. You're way above me. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe way above, or maybe way below. Maybe I'm just descended into the depths of insanity, and no one can help. Anonymous user says, "What's cracking, Robbie?" Not too much. Trying to simplify the madness of the layer merging function, so that I can start doing some optimizations to it. I reverse engineered the wallet software, did not help. Still corrupted. Yeah, that's the thing about that. It'd be a nice reward if you can get it, but what happens if you waste a ton of time on it? That's why I'm going to spend my time on stuff that's a sure thing. These block mining simulation games. Your logic of debugging is astounding. Well, if you find some inspiration from it, that's good. Wasted a week so far. Being able to rebuild it was nice. Gotta find a way to make 5 to 7K a month. Got about 3.5 months to rack up 20G for moving. yeah, I mean, that's those are really rough, really rough constraints. Because if you're basically solving something that's, it almost sounds like an open problem type of thing, and there's, I guess, is there how? Well, I guess can you are you able to see that? Can you verify that whatever wallet you're trying to crack actually has money in it? Like, what if you figured this out and there's no, all the bitcoins are gone or something? See, I'm putting that aside. Just cold calling as many clients as I can. Can see it has cash in it. Well, that's good then. It's not a complete waste of time. Actually, that's not what I want. I want it if it's a less than 0. I forgot how my own thing works. Priorities. Racking my brain, trying to come up with a solution. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a fun problem to work on. I guess, do you know for sure that it's, oh, that's good. Maybe this is going to work. Do you know for sure that so you talked about before about some assumptions, about like there was something corrupted with something was corrupted or something was done backwards, as opposed to, I don't know if you don't want to invest an unlimited amount of time into a wild goose chase if it's like if the whole thing was just a rumor and it's actually like you're basically just trying to brute force. I see some plain text noise through the decryption that wouldn't occur if it was fully corrupt. Interesting. I don't know enough about AES to say that I can relate to that, but it sounds like something that would be a real statement. Yeah, like I said, it'd be fun if there was no requirements to actually make money. It'd be fun. A fun problem to work on. Yeah, I'd be interested to know what plain text noise consists of. Something that resembles part of a private key in amongst Unicode garbage. Could be just a coincidence. Yeah, that's the potentially frightening prospect. It's like, what if you just lose you work on it so hard you lose your mind, and then you start seeing messages that aren't there. I have a site where I got is like a contact me form, and I keep getting I get a bunch of random spam, and a few times there's like a piece of spam people submit, and it looks like a kind of obvious substitution cipher problem. Like it looks like it's just a simple, one sentence message, and if you just figured out the substitution cipher, then the message would be there. So I just copied and pasted it and put it in these there's a million substitution cipher solvers online, and it'll go through all the different permutations of things that are high likelihood solutions. And if you look at them, there's you start with gibberish, and then what the algorithm is designed to do is find stuff that has the maximum weighting of normal English character distribution and stuff. So when you start reading all the solutions, you're like, wait, that looks like there's a bit of a message coming through in the first one, and then you just keep going through them, and there's more and more things that look like you're getting close, but it's all there's 5 different, there's 20 different inconsistent decryptions that can't all be right. Advanced encryption, if you can crack, they make a lot of money. I think he has some prior information he's working on, so that kind of decreases the solution space. Confirmation bias, I think, is having control of this source. Being able to go back through the commits does give me hope. Well, I hope you get it. That would be neat. Okay, what am I doing? I am going to turn back on the randomization of the layer placement. Now, will this work? Excellent. That looks good. Unfortunately, need to put it aside. Look for high-paying jobs. Can't chase the dragon for too long. There was someone in the chat yesterday who was it, yesterday or the day before. I guess you can check the live stream VOD from he donated two $150 super chats, and he was trying to persuade me to doing what was it? I think HackerOne bug bounties, and he was very sold on the idea of using AI to do like bug bounty solving. So he said he figured out a heuristic for it. I've never tried bug bounties before, but it has been something I've been curious about, because if you are actually good at a particular, if you do I think a certain proprietary high value software already well, that might be a good, I think being good at bug bounties would just require knowing a lot of prior information about the tools. I think if they have bug bounties for GNU core utils, I would probably be very good at that. How to do world domination. Decrease the world to the size of your game. Code the game. Dominate the world. What is not part of your world, you give no care. I could also dominate both. I've had one bug bounty, paid me like 3 ETH. Back then, when ETH was 300. It was an accidental find. Yeah, I don't know if you're... I think the type of person who is sophisticated enough to like if you're trying to solve those kinds of like decryption problems and stuff like that is you know, that's in the realm of like actual hacker territory, and the number of technical people, like if you take all the people who code in the US versus the number of people who are like hackers, it's not that many. So I still don't think I would pursue the bug bounty thing, just because it would be, I'd probably compare it to, I think you just have to be churning, you'd have to be putting in days and days and days on it all the time, and it would probably become similar to a regular 9-to-5 job. It's also an opium addict and disparaging you and everyone in chat. Yeah, that was a comment about being on withdrawal was pretty odd. I didn't notice too many disparaging chats. He didn't seem that he just seemed like really persuasive about wanting me to do HackerOne, but he said everyone was delusional. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was projecting a little bit. Um, yeah, he he was chatting a lot. He was like, he wasn't too off topic, but I was kind of on the verge of thinking like, maybe I'm gonna have to time him out or something to slow down the chat. He said go look me up on HackerOne, and I did actually. After the stream, I did look up. He super chatted $300, so I'm like, yeah, the least I can do is actually look up his claim. And so I looked up that profile, and he said he made $36,000 on one of the bug bounties, and he said he discovered this. He was super excited about using AI to discover all these things and stuff. So I'm like, I guess it's like a crazy person who's never coded before and just like tried ChatGPT once. So we don't necessarily know if that is his profile, but there is a profile with that name that had a bug bounties for, he said, GitLab, and it does indeed have. There's actually multiple. I looked at like what would have been the earnings for that account, and it was there was at least 3 bug bounties that were, I think, 36,000, and then one that was like 10,000 or something. So whoever's behind that profile, assuming that's the same chatter, is at least capable of actually attaining those bug bounties. So whatever that's worth. I had to step away from keyboard for a moment. I was going to say the only reason I found that bug was I was making a game within a game. Some remote or some kind of code injection thing. Okay, that works. So I got rid of that one variable. They had some sandbox inside their game that allowed you to write scripts in it. I used it to inject into the DOM. Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Has anyone else here done bug bounties? What is the I mean, it's one of those things where it seems it is the ultimate merit-based thing. So if you were just really good in solving bug bounties, like way better than other people, it is an area where I could almost imagine, like, I would kind of expect like the best bug bounty hunters to make like 10 or 100 times more than the worst ones. Like, it would not surprise me if there's people who really know a specific thing could make like $1 million a year. But I have no experience in it. Checking out Hacker 1 now. Giving them full stack. The quarter century experience behind me. Should be very be easy enough. Yeah, I would think I don't know, it would be tempting to try, but then again, just like your other the other problem you're working on, it's an open-ended problem. So what if you're like, there's a chance that you're trying to find bugs in a piece of software that has no bugs. So you're just on a wild goose chase and you're spending all this time. But if you're a super smart hacker, then you can find like 10 bugs and make like $1 million. If you do try it, you should do a live stream. I just watch John Hammond do them. Okay, so there's people that live stream their bug bounty hunting. Interesting. That's interesting. I was thinking about that. If someone live stream bug bounty hunting, but then what could someone like snipe? If they're watching the stream, then they could snipe the bug from you and submit it before you. Hacking and security go hand in hand. I've topped to the Mozilla Observatory scoring system already. You have all the fundamentals. Just watching you with Java showcases you'd be good. Yeah, I could, but then if I do that though, who's gonna write all the block mining simulation games? I think that's a much more solid career path. Game of Minecraft 65 says, yo. Not gonna lie, envy Robbie's Java skills. One of my lesser known languages. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, there's a lot to know in Java, and I don't even know half of it. Probably easier to find bugs in C projects. Yeah, C would be a gold mine for that kind of stuff. I really think it would, to really squeeze a lot of money out of bug bounties, I think you'd have to, the way to do it would be like pick a specific piece of software and then learn how to like actually use the software very, very well. Like spend like 2 months or you don't get anything and you just use every corner of the software. And then over time you'd get, you get a feel for like certain functions that are not commonly used or the strange ways to use them. And you'd probably learn like you'd learn about like bugs that at first seem innocuous, and then over time you'd realize like, oh, you could use this bug to exploit something. All right, so we got rid of one of those variables. Pretty sure most bug bounties don't pay millions, maybe a few grand. I doubt even with all skills, you can earn a lot. Yeah, I would assume it's quite competitive. And there's also, I think there's a ton of people who live in, like, if I recall correctly, I remember, like, I think like Algeria or Iran or something, or like some of those Middle Eastern countries were some of the top places for some of these, like, it might have been hacking contests or like bug bounty contests and stuff. And it's because the wages there are so low that, and if you just have any computer, you can literally just sit there and spend all of your time, you know, trying to get any kind of revenue out of it at all. And it's also, it's like remote work you can do anywhere. Even if I can't find a few grand, it should help. Works it out to 5 to 7 a month. Would solve my problem. Might be right avenue. Yeah, I don't know. I mean that suggestion about bug bounties comes with no warranty. The reason I'm not doing it is I've just assumed that it's way too, like, difficult, and not necessarily difficult, but too competitive, and the amount of, like, startup cost. Like, I really think the way to do it well is pick some specific piece of software and just focus, like, for months and get no benefit, and then after you spend several months on it, then you'll know about all the quirks of the software. The guy who was in chat was saying that he was super convinced that he found a way to use AI to, like, find tons of bugs, and he was going to make $1 million. For his sake, I hope he does. But I am skeptical. Game development, also competitive and no warranty. That's true. My perspective on it, though, I think the way to bootstrap something is to find a model where you can make money developing the thing, which is one of the that's part of the experiment of doing this live streaming thing, to see how much revenue I can derive from that, and to see if I can actually if there's a way to make money in just making something. Because the amount of money I get in super chats and memberships is way more than what the this game concept has actually produced itself. But then eventually, if it's if I can add enough content to it, then it could actually start making sales itself. AI would be legit the worst way. Be wasting time. He was saying, I mean, I take everything he said with a grain of salt, but he said that if you prime the AI really well, I would imagine that it probably could, like, you could probably write some scripts to, like, prime an AI, like, even just if you imagine like like slightly better fuzz testing. Like just ask ChatGPT like write a program that fuzz tests this API. That would be, one way that AI could help. And then if you do variations on that, like kind of restrict it down a little bit. Because if you have an infinite source of free test cases to throw into your program, then you can, just bombard it with, tons and tons of inputs. And then if you get a segmentation fault, then you're like, okay, maybe that's something to pick into. Does that guy ever cancel his deposit for his habit? I'm not sure what you mean by cancel his deposit. You mean the super chat? It still shows up on my analytics, but I guess if you did a chargeback, I'm not sure how long that would take to show up. I mean, right now AI is not good for that kind of stuff, but it is kind of scary to think that eventually AI probably will get like kind of scary good about, like, even with what we have now, there's still ways to like experiment with heuristics. Someone might eventually come up with like a really, really good prompt, like I don't know, a 2,000 line prompt that primes it really well. All right, let's try to eliminate some more variables. Actually, how a part of my advanced RPA works. Self-referential. Maybe worth using it to at least vet the better bounties. I would imagine there probably is, like, as bad as AI is, I would imagine there is probably some low-hanging fruit. And if you're the first mover, like if you just ask an AI right now, like create an example input that'll create a buffer overflow, and just ask it to do that 1 billion times, and then throw that into your program. I mean, I guess there's probably existing fuzzing tools that are already more sophisticated than that, but can't remember. Would you tell it? Many projects I've noticed it can't remember a lot. Yeah, it doesn't. It only remembers what's in the token context window. All right, if I can get that to work, that'll be good. A good simplification. Let's see what that does. That's what happened with that wallet software. Buffer overflow caused the corruption. Nice. There's a bounty for Wicker, the defunct encrypted messenger. Random. All right, that didn't crash. Now will the tests pass? Wow, look at that. That is really awesome. It's kind of incredible how convoluted that was, and then how like through just variable substitutions and stuff, it's actually possible to delete so much of that insane looping logic and stuff, and it's functionally equivalent. What do blocks represent? So the thing that is being done here is screen layer merging. This here, yeah. So it's fuzz testing the layer merging algorithm. So this here, this 4 things here that represents one layer. So that's the top layer, layer 3, layer 2, layer 1, and in the fuzz testing, the layers have arbitrary width and height. They have arbitrary offsets, so they can get stacked on each other with an offset. And there's randomized offset, active flags, so you can make a specific character active or not at the cell level, but also the layer can be active or not. And that's what this represents. The change flag, that's an indication that this character has changed since the last print. And if it's changed, then it should be printed. But if it's not changed, then that means don't print it. Oh. Like I said, I went off the screen. Okay, those tests pass. Let's try to find one with an interesting output. Okay, here's one with a. So it takes those together, merges them together. So there's active states that changed. So those are cells, areas of the layer that are changed, and then there's changed regions. So that's just like it's a box that I use. So like let's say the player icon moves, I move to the right one instead of updating the entire, instead of like when I iterate over an area to like say merge the layers or even inspect anything, to even inspect the change flags, it restricts that to a subset that's it's a square region. So it's just like start X and end X, start Y, start Y, start Y, end Y. And so these are the change regions. And the layer here, so this, I just made this convention to be the areas with the pounds. So that's like an empty region. There's nothing there, like transparency basically. And then anything with like if it says 3 __, that's a 3-column character. And there would be some actual character there, but I don't care what it is. So that there's like a 6-column character, 5-column character, etc. Yeah, so let's see, does this have anything? So that's at -2. Okay, so that's merged. This is merged down at -2, so it's not even on here. Yeah, a lot of these tests don't even do anything because they're all randomly generated. But they cover basically every possible combination of thing. Okay, here's one that actually does something. I guess that's merging an inactive layer. Yeah, anyway. Should test flag. Should test flag then optimize it a bit. I'm not sure what that would mean. A should test flag. Let's make sure I actually did compile that, because if I don't actually Maven install that, the tests are invalid. If you're generating randomly in your tests, the randomness creates a situation where testing it would be redundant. There's definitely lots of redundancy in the tests, but like I could optimize the tests to be more efficient and more efficiently cover the like the input partition space but that would take time. So it's just time is the valuable thing. It's better to just make the test like kind of stupid and possibly redundant, but then just like run it for 500,000 cases. All right, that does indeed work. So that is a good accomplishment for tonight. That's why I suggested every few seconds you spend extra testing. It is time not spent developing it. That's true, but I think for the number of times that I'll need to actually run the test, like most of the, at the moment, the fuzz testing catches most of the bugs I have in the first few seconds. There are a few, like when I really want to make sure it's working, I'll just run it for like 5 minutes or something. I did the full 2-minute test for these changes because these were like a lot of really subtle. There's a lot of like subtle edge cases that I want to keep working with, like these are like literal edge cases. There are cases where it's characters are merged at the edge of the layer. Right, I didn't even need that. That might not be necessary anymore. It's so satisfying when you start making progress and simplifying this stuff, and just you can start deleting all your code. Someone asked the other week if you allow pull requests. I don't think I heard the answer to that. I could suggest quite a few changes to the code to help you reduce overall bulk if you want. Probably not. I at this time won't. It would be extra work and thinking to accept pull requests, and there's copyright considerations, and although it's kind of annoying in this day and age. I mean, you still have to like think about copyright and ownership of stuff. But in the meantime, AI is just going to steal everything. I think if I can eventually make progress on this, get it to the point where people actually use it, then I could develop other revenue from it. Then I'd probably just hire other people. Or I would probably instead of accepting pull requests, I would just set out an offer to solicit people, look for people to actually want to be paid to work on it. But right now I have no money. Actually, I got my I just filed my corporate income tax. I have to pay $663 in taxes. And I also got to pay. I got to pay the accountant. Oh, we have a regression. Better keep on the grind. Have a great night. Have a good night. Let's see if that makes it work. I guess that flag is used. Now I think one of the remaining sources of lag is in this function. Robert, what are you up to? Currently thinking about next steps for optimizing this thing. I still wanted to make it a bit faster, just to make there's a bunch of unnecessary lag. And one of the first things I did was just simplify this function because it was a real nightmare. It's still kind of a nightmare, but it's less of a nightmare now. At least enough that if I go away from this for a few months and come back, I'll probably be able to decipher this. But what I had before was pretty bad. I've been working on like optimizing this for so long. I want to just get some quick wins and then declare victory and move on. I need to actually start implementing features on this. This function here is particularly problematic. And I'm thinking about what it does. I don't think there's really a way to make it faster. I don't know, maybe I could rearrange the bounds. There's a ton of branch conditions. That's going to slow down everything really bad. But the thing is, the branching is intrinsically necessary. It might make sense to do someone mentioned some other profiling tools. The profiling tool I used, it only tells me which function is responsible for all the CPU time, but not necessarily the line. I guess if I can't optimize this more, then I also need to look into ways, like maybe I'm calling this function like 5 million times more than necessary. That's been a common problem in my program. I have some overzealous like update function that's updating the screen 1,000 times instead of 1 time. Is that branch even necessary? Do you think talking things out loud ever helps you look at things a different way, or think out a solution? Oh, I guess it doesn't work. I guess theoretically, like if someone asks me a specific question, says like explain how this works, and that like if they know what the problem is, they say like explain this case, what happens in this case, then going through that it does. But actually, I would say I think that's actually a complementary in terms of what I've been. If I spend a prolonged period in a social situation versus in a coding situation, I think the part of the brain that does one or the other is the same. Because I find it if I spend a lot of time like talking to people and socializing, it makes it me way worse at coding, and it takes like a week or something to decompress and then focus on code, and it works the other way as well. If I spend a lot of time coding or thinking about math, it becomes more difficult to speak. I do find like writing down the problem on paper that helps to reason through things, being able to like draw it out is a almost essential technique. Right, that optimization is a no-go. Well, it's 12:36. I made a little bit of progress tonight. I'm usually saying something stupid when I think out loud. So I'm glad I'm a remote worker. This way I seem smarter to my colleagues. Yeah, I think I guess speaking out loud is, or like talking about it is one thing. I think the real win is from something that forces you to think through what happens in a case. So one of the things I ask myself is like, if I don't know what I'm doing, if something's broken and I can't figure out why, I just ask myself the question, like, think about like, what kind of scientific experiment can I do that's very fast and easy that will give me more information about what's causing this issue. And then you can, like, I'm kind of surprised sometimes at how bad otherwise technical people are at debugging things. Like a simple just like process of elimination. Like if you have got an internet, a cable and a router or something that's not working, and if you just like use process of elimination to say like, okay, I have this cable and this plugged into this thing, and then I swap the cables, and if that makes it work, then the commonality was the cable. And if swapping the cable doesn't fix it, and then if I swap out the router to a different router and then it works, then maybe it was the router. And you can use this same thing a lot for programming. But anyway, I'll leave it there for tonight, and we'll pick things up again tomorrow night for day 134. I think tomorrow night, I think I'm done with this, like, trying to simplify it. I've gotten a lot of the rat's nest of state variables fixed. And I'll run the profiler again just to, or maybe take a look at the debugger to, like, for example, the help menu is insanely slow. And if I can figure out why the help menu is slow, I think that's maybe a good place to start. All right, have a good night, guys.